I just got three things to say. God bless our troops, God bless America, and gentlemen, start your engine!
Welcome to the Stire Sound podcast with your hosts, Trey Stire and Jack Noel.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 21 of the Stire Sound. Thank you for joining us once again, and it's hard to believe, but this is the final episode in the first calendar year of the Stire Sound. Of course, we started this thing back in late June, and now we're here. The calendar is almost flipped over to 2026. The Christmas season is upon us. Thank you for tuning in wherever you may be listening from. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeart Radio. You know where to find us. I am Trey Stire, your host. Thank you for tuning in. And for those of you who have become loyal listeners over our first year, we appreciate your support. There was a lot of love for us in some Spotify Wrapped this year. We had some people have us in their top 5 shows, some in their top 10. We had several of you who are loyal listeners week in and week out have the Stire Sound as their number one podcast of the year. So we thank you for the support so far. Still a very small show, but hopefully this year has been the foundation and the start of some growth for us. But we appreciate all of the love. Continue to tell people you know about this show so we can continue growing into 2026. In today's episode, we'll be wrapping up the World Supercross Championship. When we left you last time, only 3 out of 5 rounds were complete, but now we have the series finished. Stockholm, round 4 took place a couple weekends ago, and the most recent weekend that just happened, it was round 5, the title decider in Cape Town, South Africa. We will be wrapping up the WSX Championship, and the majority of our show today will be dedicated to our year-end awards. Jack and I will be handing out proverbial hardware. Obviously, we don't have any real trophies or real envelopes or anything to hand out, but we will be naming some of our best and worst moments of the year on the show. Joining me, as always, is co-host. I just mentioned him. He's going to be here to give his side of the awards and to also give his point of view on the end of World Supercross from, and I hope I get this right since it's a new name, the Dirt Legal Dirt Bike Depot Racing WMR KTM team. Lots of dirt, lots of letters in there. But Jack Noel, what's up, man? We got 6 inches of snow on the ground here in West Virginia. I'm sure it's probably sunny and a lot warmer in Florida. How you doing, man? And are you getting ready for the Christmas season?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm just hanging out here in Florida, getting ready for the Supercross season for us. We got our photo shoot coming up soon, so getting things ready and finalizing some little details here for the team, and then been working here as well. So it's been good. I'm enjoying my time off, and yeah, I'm excited to review World Supercross. There's some really good action this weekend. I think that series really showed its worth this year. I think it was finally like the first season where I could be like, you know what, this is pretty legit, and they're getting some legit guys, and the tracks are legit, and so for the most part. So yeah, I'm excited to review it all and give our awards for this season.
Great weekend for your team in Macon, Georgia for the Parkzilla Arena Cross Series. Gage Linville, I believe, went 4 for 4, sweeping the main events. I know he swept Friday night, and I believe he did it Saturday as well. Jace Kessler also getting back on the podium. He struggled the last couple rounds, but getting back to his round 1 form. A little bit of beef in there with Luke Neese, but some really good results for your guys over at the Dirt Bike Depot team. Now we shift into WSX coverage and Stockholm briefly for those of you who might not have been able to catch the race. Jason Anderson ended up using Stockholm and winning 2-1-1 scores to leap from 4th to 1st, or tied for 1st, in the championship standings. Of course, Anderson struggled in Gold Coast, lost a bunch of ground, but had a great night in Stockholm. And leaving Sweden, it set up a 3-way fight for the championship. Anderson left Sweden with 126 points, tied with Joey Savatgy. And then Christian Craig was only 1 point behind with 125. Set up an amazing battle for Cape Town. Then in the SX2 class, Max Anstie won again in Stockholm, surprise, surprise. But the actual surprise was the fact that his perfect season came to an end. He won the first 2 races of the night, but his perfect streak was ended at 11. He could not reach the full 15 races. It was Enzo Lopes from the Rick Ware Racing Arby's Yamaha team on the meat rocket, or whatever Cody Schock called that Yamaha machine. The Enzo Lopes, what a ride from him in the final race at Stockholm. Snap Max Anstie's streak. Moving into Cape Town, we'll start with the SX2 class, because all Max Anstie needed to wrap up the championship was 5 points. All he needed to do was to go out and finish either 6th or better in one of the sprint races, or to just simply start the final main event, since there were only 14 riders in the class. And Max Anstie got the job done with a 2nd in the first sprint race of the night, and he wrapped up his 2nd World Supercross Championship. If the pattern continues, I think Shane McElrath will be champion next year, and then Anstie will win again in 2027, because they have split every championship. McElrath won the first season, then Anstie. McElrath was back on top last year. Now Anstie, world champion again. But it was the Shane McElrath show. He struggled through part of the season, some uncharacteristically mid-pack runs. Of course, he had some mechanical issues in Vancouver. But McElrath really started to find his form again at the end of the season, and he went 1-1-1, a perfect night in South Africa to end the year. And you could tell he was really stoked with his effort. With the 1-1-1 result and the perfect score, he ended up leaping to 2nd in points, passing Cody Schock. Cody was the final man on the overall podium. But Max Anstie, of course, your 2025 World Supercross SX2 champion. And congratulations to the GSM Yamaha bunch, Serge Guidetti's team based out of France, their first World Supercross championship of any type. So they have to be stoked with Anstie's performance this year. And of course, the SX1 class was really where the attention was. Anderson versus Savacci versus Craig. Anderson got the first couple shots in there. He won both race 1 and race 2. Race 1 started with a sketchy moment. He had a great start, but then went off track, came back in, forced the issue a little bit, but he won the race. And in the second race, he checked out. Jorge Zaragoza pulled the whole shot. Of course, a guy with an incredible career arc. Haven't seen him up front much this season, but he's definitely got one of the wildest career paths of any current racer, going from MX2 factory Honda racer, teammates with Tim Geiser, to electric bike guru who's racing all these international supercross and arena cross races. But Joey Savacci bobbled off the start, lost a few positions early, and he had to play catch up. Had to pass guys like Luke Plout and Colt Nichols. Ended up getting around Zaragoza for 2nd on the final lap after the Spaniard made a mistake. Savacci took P2. It was a bad start to the night for Christian Craig. He was essentially out of it before it really began, because he went down on the opening lap of both moto and had to play catch up, but wasn't able to make as much progress as Savacci was the moto. He had to come from behind. And then race 3, for my money, regardless of series, one of the best motos or races of the year anywhere. Savacci and Anderson trading the lead. There were aggressive moves, nothing too egregious, but 2 guys going for the championship. And man, they were taking a couple shots at each other, some elbow grease, nothing too crazy, but they were definitely forcing the issue. Anderson got to the lead, but made a couple mistakes, allowing Savacci back by. Anderson tracked him down late, passed him. Savacci started to reel him in on the final lap, and a couple corners to go. He made a lunge, but was a little too far back. And when I saw Savacci start lining up that lunge, I instantly got Vegas 2017 flashbacks, as I'm sure a lot of people did. Of course, Joey was on the receiving end of that one. And it's funny to look back 8.5 years later. Savacci was the one trying to make a move 2 bowl corners from the finish to win the championship. And in a funny twist of fate, of course, it wasn't Zach Osborne, since he's retired, but it was a guy who was Osborne's teammate during that time in 2017, Jason Anderson, who would have been on the receiving end of it. But Anderson held on for his first World Supercross Championship, the 2nd title for the Pipes Motorsports Group Suzuki bunch, putting Suzuki back on top. in that series. Savatgy finishes second, just 5 points back. Then Christian Craig, third overall. Ken Roczen, fourth overall, only running 3 out of 5 rounds, 9 out of 15 races total. And shout out to Henry Miller, a guy who's a little bit under the radar, usually an 8 to 12 guy in 250 Supercross here in America. And I know there was a lot of fluctuation in that 5 to 12 range in World Supercross, but shout out to Henry Miller for getting 5th in the championship aboard his Rick Ware Racing Yamaha. Top 5 in the SX2. I forgot to mention Cullen Park and Enzo Lopes rounding out the top 5 in points there. But a very entertaining final round of World Supercross. If you haven't been able to catch the Cape Town motos, for sure watch the final 450 race because it was one of the best races of the year, hands down. Jack, a great ending to the year. Of course, you've been very high on World Supercross this year. We talked last episode about how entertaining the Australian round was to watch, with names like Roczen and Tomac, Webb and Deegan, all of those guys mixing it up, plus Christian Craig starting his resurgence. And what an ending to the year with the Savatgy-Anderson battle. And not only that, but we were both right in saying that Max Anstie would be champion. And of course, you had the bold prediction that Anstie would win an AMA Supercross 250 regional title this year. And I don't really think that prediction's so bold right now because Max Anstie is looking very, very good and very comfortable aboard his star Yamaha.
Yeah, World Supercross last 2 weekends have delivered, in my opinion. I think, although the Sweden round was a bit weird just because it was like almost like a mud race that was dry. Like, I don't know, like it was very weird to me. That's how like Cohen explained it. He's like, it's like riding a mud race, but there's no water. It was super like weird. It was like spongy. It was thick dirt, almost sandy sometimes in some areas. But it was interesting. I mean, like it was weird, but it was, they made it work for what they had, I guess. And like I feel like that arena was cool, and the guys I think liked Stockholm from like what I heard. So that was cool. And then not Australia, Cape Town. I mean, the way they did it was really smart. I think you leave a guy like Ken Roczen who's clearly going to win the title, and you say, and like you're like, hey, we're not going to have you back, or we're not going to pay you whatever their whole deal is. And you say, look, one of these 3 guys is going to win. They've never won before. It's going to make it way more interesting for us fans to watch a 3-way championship battle these next 2 races and make it more interesting to watch. Watch you guys like Anderson, Savatgy, Craig, who are all great riders in their own right. So it was definitely good to watch. I definitely give it to World Supercross for putting on some good racing. And man, Cape Town did not disappoint. I mean, those 450 races, all 3 of them were really good. I mean, having to see Savatgy fight through the pack in Moto 2, Savatgy Anderson go back and forth in Moto 1 a little bit, and then Moto 3, I mean, it was just an all-out war, and it was super cool. And Savatgy's been on the receiving end of a lot of bad luck when it comes to championships. You look back at, like you said earlier, like the Zach Osborne thing. It's just like, he's been built up for this moment. He's been in the position to win these World Supercross Championship before, and unfortunately it didn't get done, which sucks. So, yeah, no, I think the series as a whole did a great job. I think Max Anstie looked really, really good in Sweden and then as well in South Africa. I think he backed off a little bit. I really don't think he was trying that hard. Like it might have seemed like he was, but he wasn't taking any risks, in my opinion. Like I think if he wanted to pass Shane, he could have. And then, well, props to Shane too, because Shane rode really well. Like Shane, was very determined from the whole night. Even though I know Mac's gonna win this title, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna win all three of these races and get a good start. And he was locked in from the jump. So that was no shout or to shade to Shane there on that one. But Max, I think, wasn't pushing to 100% effort. And why should he? I mean, he's won the title. It's not like you're trying to keep a perfect season alive or something like that because he lost it in Sweden. So, rolled in second, stay safe for AMA Supercross, and I think he'll be, like I said before, very, very dangerous. And I think Anderson could be dangerous too this year. I think Anderson, although when Ken Rocks and Tomac and Deegan and those guys were there, it wasn't as good. But I think this for Anderson, since they're a confidence-based rider, same with Craig even. I think he could, really uplift those guys. And they have, the next month to go home and to train for Supercross coming up. It's like these guys now have like put a bunch of gate drops in. They're not like, oh man, A1 ready, like whatever. like they're ready to go race, and they're going to go back, adjust what they need to adjust, and then come A1 they're going to be swinging. Those guys I think are going to be ready to go race at A1 and be better than I think anybody expects them to be. I don't expect them to go out and win races necessarily or win a championship, but I think they could be up top in the top 3, top 5, just by having the ability or having the, racing those races and being confident up front. And, whenever you're up front, you kind of gravitate towards there. So I think it'll be interesting to see come A1. But yeah, the World Supercross Championship did not disappoint. I think the 250 class, although I wish it would have been more interesting, I think if you take Anstie out of it and maybe McElrath has a better year, I think it's a lot different, a little bit more interesting. But Anstie was so good, and I think he's going to be tough to beat in America too. And I don't know how good anybody would have done against him. I think if you put Deegan in the 250 class in Argentina, I think he probably isn't going to beat Max Anstie. So, I'm interested to see like how the coasts line up on the 250 class, just to see who's riding where and where PC decides to put their pieces and what they decide to do, because Deegan's going west. I think that's going to dictate a lot for a lot of teams. So I'll be interested to see how everything pans out in America. And then I think the World Supercross Championship was great, and I'm excited to see what they can add to it next year, and hopefully they can add some more teams. I think that's the one thing I would say is like there's just not a lot of guys on the gate. Like it's like, yeah, nobody really cares about outside the top 5, so it's like whatever. But I think if they can add some more guys to the gate, I think the addition of like heat races and stuff like that, maybe a 30-man ride, like 30 riders make the night show, and then you're qualifying for 15 spots in the main event. That would be more interesting just to see a mix up of little stuff. I think that'd be way more. And then like you get like the transfer battles that get like the guys that are battling for 7th, 8th place, they get some TV time, and then it amps up to the viewership of the race instead of just being in a battle for the lead the whole time. So, I'm interested to see what they do upcoming. I think if they, depending on where they go, it's obviously, I think it's how it's going to work. But I like the idea of their scheme, but I think it could be better. What about you, Trey? What do you think about the whole like layout of the World Supercross thing? I think you look back at it and it's good, and there's some negatives. What are some pros and cons that you saw? Just wondering, what do you think?
I feel like this year's format might be the best one they've done in terms of racing. I know last year we had the super final or whatever it was called when you had both class guys against each other, but at the end of the day, it ended up being like Tomac and Roxon always out front, or the 450 guys, regardless. But I think having the 2 shorter races and then having a longer final race was a good idea. I think maybe the final race should have been 15 laps instead of 12 for a little bit more racing for the fans. But overall, I think it was a great year of racing. You bring up Stockholm, that was a last-minute round. At the beginning of the year, it was supposed to be Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia as the opening round, but they had some kind of issues with arena logistics. And I know one of the complaints for years has been they've had canceled rounds in the past and not been able to make them up. This year, they were able to. They got Stockholm kind of last minute, putting a lot of travel on people's hands, but they delivered. It was a solid race. Like you said, a very strange race in terms of the dirt and stuff, but in terms of the stadium and the crowd, it looked pretty solid, and I think they did a good job pulling off a replacement venue after probably scrambling when they found out that Malaysia was not feasible. And I do agree with your team aspect part of it. I think back to the original season, and when you look at that original season in 2022, 4 out of the original 10 teams are gone. Club MX, MDK, Nils Honda, and CDR Yamaha all pulled out of the series. And after the last couple years, it's like, well, I kind of understand it. But now this year you have Stark coming in, and that was a great addition to the field. Of course, everybody likes to debate about the electric bikes running with the gas bikes, but they had some solid showings. Overall, it's nothing crazy on paper, but I think they have a good base under them. It was really cool to see not only a new team, but a new brand enter the series, and something with some spark like the Stark Future machines. But I do agree with your sentiment that we need more riders on the gate. It would be awesome to see more teams line up. And I get, like I said, why some of the teams have left, but it was very good racing this year. I think the format And the series being able to reach every round, I think, was a good sign. I feel like WSX has a bit more positivity around the fans and online just chatter, because it seems like, yeah, you had more racing, but it seemed like there was a lot of negative perception toward the series in the first couple seasons. Now that they were able to fill all 5 rounds, they had some really big names there. I think stocks are trending upward a little bit. Like I mentioned, I think the current format is cool, although, classic heat race LCQ format would also be really nice. I just don't see, at the level they're at right now, the series being able to attract 30 guys when they usually can't get 20. But I think it would also be cool if they were able to open more wild card spots up to some local guys. Obviously, Australia this year, it was running as the Australian Supercross Championship was running. But you think how many top guys you could have had out there as wild cards if the Aussie series wasn't running. Even with Tomac and Webb and Roxon, like, you could have had Dean Wilson out there, Cedric Subaros, could have had Lux Turner or Alex Larwood or Jake Cannon in the 250 class. You could have really added to the depth of the series if they would add more wild cards closer to home. I'd love to see some more of these riders, because realistically, there were only a few wild cards this year. Only really one guy, I think Caleb Barham, in Australia as a wild card in the 250 class. But definitely some changes, but I think there was a lot of positive progress for the WSX series this year. The racing action was great. I feel like TV stuff for America also needs to be worked out more, because they said it was going to be on BN Sports at the last minute. And I think only 2 out of the 5 rounds were actually on BN Sports or BN Sports Extra over here. So hopefully some better coverage things, or maybe, I know they have like their streaming app or streaming pass or whatever you want to call it, but hopefully some better options for people to be able to watch the race live. But I think there was a lot of progress this year personally.
And to touch on the streaming part of it, I actually bought the streaming pass in America, and it wasn't too bad. I think it was like $27 or something like that, or if I can remember, I think that's what it was, like $30 or something like that for all 5 rounds. And it actually went down in price as you got closer to the season, or like each round was like $7 or something like that. So it actually, like, as like, let's say you didn't buy it for the first round because you was in wherever, but then you buy it for the second round, and it's like the price goes down as the season keeps going. So I thought that was cool. That's something I noticed. And then obviously, I think if they could get picked up by like a major TV provider, that would be really ideal. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I was able to, but the streaming for the most part, other than like the first round that had a little bit of difficulty, it was, well, like, it was, everything was live, everything came through clear, no audio errors, nothing like that, which I thought was a good improvement compared to the years past when you try to buy like the season pass on the WSX thing and it doesn't even work. So I think that was a positive for me, at least, knowing that you can now stream these races and it be like accessible, and it's only $30. So I thought it was good. And then I think the biggest thing for them is just getting sponsors. If they can get sponsors, that series will prosper. So I think that's what I have to say, at least.
Good point about the sponsors as well. I think that if they have more support, not only from the manufacturers, but other companies, I think this year is a step in the right direction. And so we'll see what the folks over at WSX can accomplish for 2026 and beyond, perhaps. Now moving in to our 2025 awards. We have quite a few awards to hand out, obviously. Like I said, we're not fancy. We're not some big podcast. We don't have any trophies to give out. But hey, we're going to name some of the best moments of the 2025 season, and we're going to start off with the big one. Why wait? Let's go Rider of the Year right off the bat. And I feel like there are a lot of guys that could be in contention for this award. And I'm sure many people would expect me to pick Jet Lawrence, but I'm not picking Jet Lawrence for my Rider of the Year. My 2025 Rider of the Year is Hayden Deegan. My main reasoning for picking Hayden over Jet is the fact that Jet got hurt early in Supercross. He missed almost the entire season, only 4 out of 17 races he was able to compete in. Hayden Deegan, across the entire year, wins the 250 West Supercross title, dominates for the majority of the 250 outdoor season, wins the title there, and probably wins the 250 SMX title if he doesn't get whacked by Levi Kitchen at St. Louis. But it was a fantastic year for Hayden Deegan. Of course, you have the beefs in there with Juju, with Cole Davies, with Joe Shimoda. You have some of the shenanigans, but Hayden Deegan, an undeniable talent, an incredible racer to watch. He's fun to watch on the motorcycle. You can hear that star bike all around the track. You can hear all of the star bikes, but especially Deegan, the way he's revving that thing out. But he's a lot of fun to watch. Of course, he has a very polarizing presence. You have half the stadium wearing Danger merch and cheering for him and watching his every move. And then there's the other half of the stadium who just hopes he hits the dirt or goes down or hopes he loses. It's a very interesting parallel to see somebody who's truly got that divide. Usually it seems like the last several years there hasn't been a rider that has a divide. It's either you love the guy or you can't stand the guy, and he is a 50-50 guy. Half the people love him, half the people can't stand him. But Hayden Deegan, I think it was a fantastic year. If we continue the Stire Sound for years to come, I wouldn't be surprised if we have Jet Lawrence win some of these awards, but my reasoning for picking Hayden Deegan is because he lasted the whole year without getting injured. Yes, he did have the collarbone at the very end of SMX, but 2 championships, perhaps it could have been 3 if St. Louis played out a little differently, but it was a great year, and he was the guy to beat in the 250 class all year long, pretty much. So hats off to Hayden and his 2025. Now I want to hear your take on who the rider of the year was.
So I'm gonna follow a little bit in the footsteps of Racer X. I think Jay Coop for me was the guy that was always there. He was battling for podiums in outdoors. He was battling for top 5 in Supercross. I don't remember if he podiumed in Supercross or not. I think he might have, but
He got a few.
nonetheless, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's for me. Like, it's the second year. He's kind of like the underdog on the star team. He's kind of given nobody's really given him a fair shot, and I think it's kind of disappointing because I think he's talented. I think he's better than a lot of the guys in the field that still hold factory seats. And I think if you put he'd be a number 1 guy on I think every other team except for maybe Cowie and Honda and Star. So every other factory team that's out there, whether it's Beta, Ducati, KTM. I mean KTM just did at Tomac, but who knows how that's gonna go. And then Husky. And what else is there? I'm trying to think. I mean, Suzuki's got Ken, so that's tough. But I think he's better than Ken when it comes to overall season performance. Ken has a lot of up and downs. He's good and he's bad. But Jay Coop was super steady throughout the whole year. Only got to do all 33 rounds. Was a red plate leader going into the SMX playoffs. I think that's huge for him. I think Jay Coop's rider of the year is no doubt. For me, or you can go Cooper Webb, right? I think Cooper Webb when the SX title was not anybody's radar. I think anybody's going. I mean, granted, there's some injuries, but Sexton was healthy the whole year and just made some stupid mistakes that cost him a title. But yeah, Jay Coop for me, rider of the year, and then I'd give second to Cooper Webb, but I think Jay Coop takes the cake here.
My honorable mentions would have been Jet Lawrence. Cooper Webb would have definitely been on there. I do like your take. I mean, Justin Cooper, he made all of the rounds without injury, 31 rounds. Plus races Motocross the Nations, plus races a couple World Supercross events. So his longevity and his health is a very important key to remaining up front. Kudos to him. Roman Febvre also would have been in my Rider of the Year conversation. Of course, we're going to be more American-centric since we are Americans and watching this series at the track. But Roman Febvre, a great year to win his 2nd World Championship. Team of the Year, personally, I could go with Star Yamaha, and that's a very good option. Red Bull KTM Dakar Racing, my other honorable mention, but I'm going to go Team Honda HRC Progressive for Team of the Year because, man, that second half of the year, that team dominated. Of course, Jet Lawrence dominating the Outdoor Championship. Him and Hunter, 1-2 in the championship. The brothers together on top again. And Joe Shimoda really hit his stride at the second half of the season. Started rattling off overall wins, ended up winning the 250 SMX title. And if Chance Hymas stays healthy, there could have been a Honda 1-2 during some of the outdoors races because Hymas went 1-1 in dominating fashion at Thunder Valley, and then unfortunately got hurt the next week in High Point. Of course, the Supercross season wasn't spectacular for Honda. Joe got a win, but then got hurt. Chance got his first win at Foxborough. Of course, the Lawrences were both out early on. But in terms of a cohesive unit and in terms of the success, especially at the back half of the season, and it's easier, I feel like, to grade a four-man team for Team Honda's sake compared to Star when you look at it. Yes, they won the Supercross title with Cooper Webb. Hayden Deegan had all of his success, but you also have some guys who are out there, whether they were battling through injuries or fluctuating. It's really hard to grade Star, in my opinion, because they're a 10-man team. And you think when you have that many guys that all of them should be winning championships. So it's a little bit harder, I think, to judge. But Honda, in terms of cohesion, and it seems like those guys just show up to the track every week ready to throw down and have fun. And usually they do that. And the Lawrence brothers, Joe Shimoda, Chance Hymas, I think, is a really fun team to watch. They all seem to get along and to really gel together. So my team of the year, Team Honda HRC Progressive, thanks to their dominance here in America, especially during the summertime.
Yeah, my team of the year is just the same as yours, HRC. I think with having a four-man team, it's a little bit easier to grade, I think, but every single one of their riders won a race this year. And then Shimoda was, in my opinion, second half of the year, motocross was better than Deegan. And I think in SMX it showed. I think he was much better than Hayden Deegan was. Deegan, I think, probably would have won the title if it wasn't for St. Louis, I agree, but he got it done over Deegan in the SMX playoffs, took his crown away, which I think was good for him. I think Deegan needed to lose. I think it kind of fuels the fire for next year for him, and I think that'll be good. But yeah, HRC definitely was, in my opinion, the most well-rounded team. I mean, when you have guys like Jet Lawrence, Hunter Lawrence, Chance Hymas, and Joe Shimoda, who Hymas also outdoors before he got hurt was really, really good. Yeah, I'm excited for 2026 to see this team. I think they have potentially 4 champions on that team. I mean, Hunter's going to have to beat Jet, which is terrible, but I think it's, if you could see Hymas potentially go compete for the 250 East title, outdoor title. Shimoda, same thing, 250 West, whatever he decides to go. Probably going East with his injury. But yeah, no, they going into next year, they're the favorites to, I think, win most of the titles or have a lot of titles at least. So, and they got 2 titles this year, or 3 if you count the SMX, 3 if Jet and Joe getting SMX. So, yeah, HRC is hard to debate with anybody else. I mean, you could put Star there with people like Deegan being so good, but definitely hard to beat when you have the Lawrences and then guys like Shimoda and Hymas. I mean, that team is well-rounded. So that's my team of the year.
Moving on now to Supercross Race of the Year, and there are a lot of really great contenders for this. I think San Diego could have been a great contender with Eli and Jet's battle in the 450 main event. Of course, Malcolm Stewart getting his first win at Tampa would be a great option. Cooper Webb holding off Chase Sexton's challenges in Pittsburgh. I feel like I'd be a bit biased if I said Pittsburgh, considering that was my first Supercross live and in color. But I am going to go for Race of the Year in Supercross. I'm going to go with Seattle because both main events had a lot of entertaining moments. Of course, the 250 class that night, Cole Davies got his first win, and that was the culmination of the Hayden Deegan, Julian Beaumare beef. They were in each other's face after the race. A little slap here. Of course, Deegan was wearing his convict uniform, whatever you want to call it, the prison outfit that weekend. And he was trying to be a prison bully, man, pushing Juju around, moving him out of the way, and the two exchanged words after the race. Then the 450 main event. The year prior, it was a Cooper Webb, Chase Sexton duel throughout the race. And it was again this year. Ken Roxon led most of the early part of the main event. But those two, Webb and Sexton, were linked together again. It was another fantastic battle. I feel like Seattle some years is just one of those rounds where it's like, oh, we're here. It's another Supercross round. But the last couple years, it seems like Seattle has absolutely delivered in terms of entertainment and great racing. So my Supercross race of the year, I'm going with Seattle because of the action throughout the night. Not just one good main event between the classes, two really fun to watch main events, and a lot of storylines that came out of that race.
Yeah, I think Seattle was 250 and 450 a good race. I actually picked a 250 race and a 450 race. My 250 race was Detroit, the East Coast. I think Max Anstie being out front for as long as he was in the red flag with like 3 laps to go, and then Kitchen's able to make the move and win the race. And then it's a whole lot of shuffling going on throughout the whole pack, which is cool. That for me, I think that was super high intensity in racing, and like being in the crowd for that one, it was cool. Everybody's going crazy for that race. Unfortunately, neither one of those guys were able to finish the season because I think those two guys, East Coast, were title favorites. After that round, that would have been a good battle to see throughout the whole year. But Levi and Max both got hurt. And then my 450 race of the year for Supercross is Pittsburgh. I think that race, championship wise, just with all the pressure that was on Cooper Webb and Chase Sexton to perform, and Cooper Webb had an unreal performance, being able to go through and hold Chase off for as long as he did. And Chase was pushing hard and making mistakes that were costly, but I think that race sealed Cooper Webb's fate as the champion. So it made it really tough for Chase to win. After that race, he had to have a Cooper Webb major falter, which when Cooper Webb's in that mode, it's hard to see that happening. So that race for me was cool. Was my favorite Supercross 450 race to watch. But yeah, I mean, a lot of good races to choose from. The Seattle race was great. And then I think another honorable mention 250 race would be Foxborough. I think that race was cool. I mean, for us at least it was. But just the all-out butter was gnarly, and the championship implications that race had with Vial getting last, and it just shook everything up and brought everything super close, and it was a shake-up race for sure. And then, I mean, there's a whole lot of races you could look at that were really good this year, Tampa being one of them with the whole Malcolm Stewart scenario. So, yeah, a lot of cool races this year, but those two are my favorites.
Man, there were so many 250 East moments looking back now that really shaped the championship. Of course, it probably would have been Anstie versus Kitchen, then they get hurt. I mean, there's a shot if Anstie and Kitchen would have stayed healthy, but maybe fluctuated through the results with Vial, with Hampshire, with Hammaker, we could have had a 5-man fight for the championship, which is insane to think about. It was already insane to have 3 guys going for the championship in the final round, but a very entertaining season of Supercross. Now moving on to Pro Motocross, and once again, I picked both races from the same day, but trying to think about it, I feel like it would still be my winner if I had to pick between the classes. And for best motocross race, I went with Redbud because it was a very unpredictable day. I remember this was, I believe, episode 2. We made our Redbud predictions, and after Southwick, Jet Lawrence and Hayden Deegan just flat out dominated. So we were basically like, man, how much longer are we going to have this? It's just going to be Jet Lawrence, Hayden Deegan every week. It really felt like that point in the year where those two were just going to run away and dominate and potentially win every round for the rest of the year. And then Redbud happens and everything gets flipped on its head. Hayden Deegan goes down in qualifying, then goes down 3 or 4 times in the first moto. Joe Shimoda gets up front, wins his first overall of the year. You think Tom Vial's got a chance to win? Nope, he goes down. Levi Kitchen's got a chance to shine with Hayden Deegan further in the back. Nope, he goes down. You have one of the perhaps strangest podiums of the season, Joe Shimoda, which I don't think people would have been surprised about. But Joe Shimoda, Jalik Swoll, Michael Mosiman was the overall podium at Redbud. And I guarantee nobody in their right mind picked that podium. Plus, you had one of the all-time strange crashes I've ever seen. Jordan Smith jumping sideways into the cables of the inflatable monster can at the side of the track. One of the strangest looking incidents I've ever seen. 450 class, there was some entertaining stuff as well. Jet goes out, dominates first moto, but that was the day he went down early in the second moto. He had to climb from 17th to 1st, and watching him slice through the pack was amazing to watch. He gets out front, wins by 10 seconds after being so far back. Plus, there was a bunch of mechanical issues. Eli Tomac and Cooper Webb both had mechanical failures in the first moto, as did Joey Savatgy. Cody Schock has a mechanical issue in Moto 2. The Ducati manufacturer made its debut here in America with Antonio Cairoli, the living legend, the 9-time world champion. There were a lot of fun aspects and just crazy occurrences, I feel like, at Red Bud. And looking back, it might not be the most memorable round for some people, but man, there was a lot of weird stuff going on that day. And I think in terms of chaos, we were at the point of the season where it just seemed like it was going to be the Lawrence and Deegan show every single weekend. And it got flipped on its head with Jet having to work his way through the field and then Deegan struggling. I think that's what makes Red Bud my race of the year. Just when we thought it was going to be predictable, it showed why the sport of supercross and motocross is the way it is and really flipped things around and said, we're not going to be so predictable anymore.
Yeah, I mean that was that round definitely flipped the series. I agree on like the head, right? It was definitely interesting to see Shimoda dominate like that, and then the chances the other riders had, they just couldn't capitalize on the opportunity. So, but Shimoda rode a great race, and I think that Red Bud round was a fun round overall. You see Jet come through the pack, and that was fun to watch. He hadn't seen that yet, and he was still able to be really good. So, yeah, it's definitely a good round. But my MX race, I go 250 Millville. 250 Millville, you get Jamar back. Last race ever for him, supposedly. And he goes out there, Moto 2, Moto 1, leading laps. I mean, that was super, super cool. And then you have the second moto where he led basically wire to wire after Hammaker, I think, made a mistake and crashed out of the lead. He was able to take it back and win the race, which was super, super cool to watch. I mean, I only watched like a couple sections of it because where I was standing, but every time he'd come around, he'd come over to this tabletop, jump into like the rollers. That's where I was standing, and you just see Jay Martin, all the fans over there just going absolutely crazy. And I think just in general, everybody was super happy for J Mart, and I think that was a super cool 250 race, almost like a one-off race in the series, in my opinion. It felt like just having J Mart being so good, which was cool. So that was my 250 race of the year. I think the 250 class kind of had like dominant weekends from certain guys, like Shimoda was either really good or Deegan was really good, kind of back and forth there. My 450 race of the year was Washougal. I think that race was really, really good. I think Sexton being as good as he was, going 1-2, passing Jet, both motos, was kind of a statement thing for Chase. I think he's always been really good at Washougal. And I mean, him being his second or third race back, I think it was third race maybe, being as good as he was super cool. So just that race for me kind of brought the series back to life, just in a sense of like we're finally getting battles again, which we hadn't really had all year because of how good Jet was, and it was super, super cool. So I was super like it was just fun to watch, and I got to watch the race on TV, so I got to watch the whole thing. So that was nice. But yeah, and then I'll go right into the playoff races. 250, I have the Las Vegas Moto 2. I think that's probably yours too, if I had to guess. You had to pick a 250 race to watch. I mean, that with the whole Deegan Shimoda shebang and Hammaker being in the mix as well.
Yeah,
definitely added to the mix. So it was super fun to watch, just hearing all the drama in the pits, like, oh, Deegan's star teammates are going to be going after Shimoda or Hammaker. They're putting bounties on their head, all that crap I was hearing. Like, it was crazy. Like, it was like legit. Like, I mean, it was not like guys were getting into it back in the pits. It was crazy. So just that whole hype of that 250 race and Shimoda being able to come out on top and Deegan, endlessly having to take Shimoda out was crazy. So that race for me was super entertaining. The fans were nuts. That race was super cool. And then 450s, I have St. Louis, just with Jet having to come to the pack. The SMX playoffs for the 40 class wasn't all that great. I don't think it was just kind of, like it was good, but it was like not great. I think Jet was pretty dominant, but having to watch Jet come through the pack, I'm trying to remember who won that race now. I'm thinking about it.
Hunter won St. Louis.
Yeah, Hunter did. Yeah, exactly. So then Hunter getting a win in the playoffs, making it go to Vegas and making it be more of a fight to the end, and the winner take all in Vegas made it cool. So I think that race for me stood out. And even though the track was super, super one line, which I didn't love that, but they did what they could with what they had. So it was a good race for me. That was the best 450 SMX race of the year. Was those two motos. So Yeah. And then what about you?
I agree with both of your picks there. I mean, obviously, the playoffs we have a lot less to pick from, but 250 Moto 2 in Vegas was one of the most insane races I've ever watched since becoming a fan of the sport and following the sport. And then, as you mentioned, the track in St. Louis on paper looked awesome, but then ended up being a lot of one line, but you still had a battle between Jet, Hunter, and Eli, watching Jet fly through the pack and try to desperately claw up to those guys. It was very entertaining to watch. Also, I want to shout out a couple races from other series that I think were incredible before we move on. MXGP of Sweden, Moto 2 GP class, Isaac Gifting, the home hero, working his way to the lead. Of course, he ends up going down. The bike ends up shutting off and doesn't refire. But seeing that crowd, just the blue and yellow, and of course, I had Edward Heather on right after that race, and he was talking about how it seemed like a football match over in Europe, a soccer match, where the crowd was just fully into it, blue and yellow everywhere. And watching a privateer guy on his home track just slice his way past Hurlings and Febvre was insane to watch. And I know it's a bit recent, but man, that Gold Coast World Supercross round, you look at all three races in the 450 class, it was very entertaining. Roxon won one, Webb won the second one, and of course you had that one with Deegan battling with Spacci and some of those other guys, and the resurgence of Christian Craig. Gold Coast World Supercross was a fantastic race weekend. And now moving on to our next award, Breakout Star of the Year, and I have a feeling we might agree on this one. And I think just about everybody would agree if they were picking this award. My breakout star of 2025 is Cole Davies. Of course, Cole Davies showed a lot of potential in the SMX Next ranks, but you never know until somebody moves up what their true potential would be. And honestly, before the season, I would have had Drew Adams probably having a better rookie season overall than Cole Davies. But man, Davies really turned it up during Supercross. He got 2 main event wins his rookie season, and a lot of times you don't see rookies win in the 250 class. Jed Lawrence never won his rookie season of Supercross. Aiden Deegan didn't either. So it's very interesting to see Cole Davies accomplish something that neither of those guys, even somebody like Cooper Webb, never won during his rookie 250 season. I mean, for Cole Davies to go out there, not just to win at Seattle, but to win the East-West shootout at Philadelphia was a statement victory. It's a shame that he had to go out and get injured at Salt Lake City, so he didn't really get to see what he was able to accomplish outdoors. But I think everybody was surprised at how well Cole Davies would have done. I don't think people would have been shocked if you said he gets a few podiums here and there at the beginning of the year, but to go out and win 2 main events after just turning pro was really insane to watch, and I think it was the best 250 rookie season we've seen in Supercross since probably Adam Cianciarulo back in 2014 when he just showed up and started winning everything.
Me and you have very, very similar picks there. I have Cole Davies as well. I think the Kiwi in Supercross, especially towards the end of the year, was really scary. I think for Deegan even, I think it was like, I think he ended up being second on the championship, right? Or no, because Salt Lake. But no, yeah, Davies definitely didn't start out very hot, but once he got to that first break and came back, he was a new rider. It felt like finally got his feet under him, and that star bike, man, it suits his style. I'll tell you what, he was unbelievably good in rounds like Denver and what other round was he good at? He was, and then Philly, like he won the East West shootout there, which you could even put that as one of the better 250 SX races of the year with how good he rode, and just being able to do that as a rookie at 17 years old. I mean, it's really scary for anybody having a race him next year, knowing that he's going to be probably better. And that's what's scary. I think if he goes west with Deegan, I think that he could knock Deegan off. And it's really, really scary for all these guys that are, you get these 250 guys that come in every once in a while and they're like, oh crap, this guy's really good. Like this guy's going to be, 3 or 4 years in the DVD class and be out. So that's what I see for him. I think he'll be, on the 50 before we even know it. And I think he'll, as long as he can stay healthy and minimize the mistakes and he can win, 3 to 4 races this year, which I think is totally possible, he'll be good. And I think that's scary, and that's a big breakout. I don't think anybody expected him to be as good as he was. I for sure didn't think that, but he has some raw speed and some raw talent that is hard to come by, and you don't really see that very often. And I think if he can figure it out in outdoors, which in my opinion is easier to figure it out in, because like Supercross is so like, some guys have it, some guys don't. Like there's just a lot of guys that don't have it, more guys that don't have it than do. Then they go to outdoors and they're a little more consistent, like, guys like Kulas and stuff like that, whatever. But, for him, it's like he's got Supercross figured out. Like if he figures it outdoors, it's over for a lot of these guys. And he could be on a reign of terror, in 2026, 27, 28, where he could win, 2VD title in the Supercross, 2VD title outdoors, 2VD SMX. Like it could be that simple for the guy. So that's my breakout guy of the year as well. I think he, cemented himself as a title contender going into next season, and I'm excited to see what he can do going into 2026.
I will also give a quick attaboy to Lucas Kuden in the MXGP series, who was a rookie as a teenager in the 450 class and went out, finished second in the championship, took the title fight to the last round. I mean, I expected Kuden to be fast and to win races and get podiums, but to be fighting for the championship in his rookie season, I think, was very impressive. Of course, Geiser went out early due to injury, but a great season from Kuden. Now moving on, another award I feel like we're going to have the same people with, and I think it's a no-brainer for this one. Comeback of the year. I have two riders picked out, honestly. I have Austin Forkner and Maximus Voland. Both riders I did not think we would ever see race again and line up in a professional atmosphere. And the fact that Forkner came back from not only that crash at Arlington that he had, landing back first on the concrete, but of course that crash they found some kind of clusters in his brain. I don't know the exact medical terminology for it, so forgive me on that one. Forkner could have had some serious health issues, but he got it straightened out, got the shot at triumph, and I know he wasn't winning races or finishing on the podium like he was before his major crash, but to see him back racing at a competitive level was a miracle in itself, in my opinion. And then for Voland, all he went through with the pelvis injury, and to be so competitive with Club MX innovating for him to put that handbrake lever on there. And I know they are sick of hearing people talk about the handbrake, but their innovation helped Voland get back to a solid level. I think he was really starting to trend upward his first couple races on that pro circuit bike. Then he gets hurt. And of course, Voland got his first professional podium for Club MX in April at Pittsburgh. I think it was a really solid year for him. He was the best non-factory guy all year, it seemed like. So kudos to those two guys, because like I mentioned, I mean, there were times where I wasn't sure if either one of those fellas would be back on the gate again, let alone running in the top 5, top 10, qualifying for the playoffs. Shout out to them. Hopefully we see both of those guys, Austin Forkner and Maximus Voland, for many years to come on the gate. Their stories were incredible, and it was awesome to see them back on the gate and competing at a very high level after a couple really scary incidents.
Yeah, so I agree with your take there, Trey. I mean, I really do, but you got to give it to my guy Cullen. I mean, to get fourth, he got fourth in maybe was it fifth in the championship this year in the East. Got his first podium, granted it was a motor race, but still a podium. Multiple top 5 finishes for a guy who didn't have a ride going into December after he broke his wrist last year and had a pretty subpar outdoor season on the 450. He looked really good. Like, he was super solid. And I think you go to Tampa and you say, oh, this guy got 7th. Oh, okay. Okay, that's pretty good. You go to Detroit and he's, battling with Forkner and stuff like that. Gets like an 11th or something like that, I think. But then, we go to Daytona. He's in 9th, top 10. And then we get to, the later rounds in the year and he's battling inside the top 5, top 7 every single weekend. And, Foxborough gets a good start and stays in second the whole race. He was so good. And if Hymas would have gone down, I mean, he's winning that race. I mean, in my head, no doubt. So I think I'm going to give it to Cullen. His outdoor results were not good. I mean, he was a top 20 guy at best, but in SMX he rode well. I mean, he was a top 10-ish guy in SMX. And I think for his scenario going into 2025, I don't think you can give it to anybody else, really. I mean, not having not knowing if you're going to be able to race or not, or have a ride or anything like that. Like, it was full blown. Like, he could have gone privateer, and it would have been no surprise to anybody. Or, that was kind of what I was hearing. Just knowing that I mean, nobody really knows this stuff, but it's, he wasn't guaranteed anything going into last year. He, with getting hurt and then picking up guys like Romano and Towers and Ferry, his future was very much, in the helm, and he was on a very so contract with Phoenix, and it was, it was kind of a prove it year for him, and he did exactly what I think he needed to do. I think if he can go in this year and improve some more on top of his, good year last year, and if he can, stack maybe one or two podiums or stack some top fives and show some real speed in qualifying, I think he could be getting himself a factory ride. I think it's not too far of the question in my head, for him. And I obviously have some bias there, but I really do think that his comeback season, after you look at last year, first round of Detroit, breaks his wrist, and that's it for him. I mean, and there's no Supercross for him anymore. So after in 2024, and he had a good 2023 year, so it was interesting to see. And I think that in 2026 he'll be, and then he had a good World Supercross as well. I think he showed that he can compete with guys like Cody Schock and Enzo Lopes and be in that battle and be up there and be, competitive. And I think that, if he can, improve off of what he did in World Supercross and Supercross this year, he'll be real good in 2026. So I give him the comeback right of the year, because I don't think anybody expected him to be that good, at least in my head. And just with all the uncertainty that surrounded him before the season even started, and for him to do what he did was really impressive.
I didn't really think about Cullen as a potential comeback of the year story, but you do bring up several great points there. I do remember that you were hearing these things like Cullen might be out of the Phoenix ride, like this might be a last minute thing. And for him to go out and perform the way he did, he really performed under pressure and put in a lot of great results. So I do like your take on that. Rivalry of the year is the next one I have on my list. And I could have picked 3 different rivalries from Hayden Deegan, but I'm actually going to go with Cooper Webb versus Chase Sexton for rivalry of the year, because it seemed like from the moment Tomac and Jet Lawrence exited the Supercross Championship with injury, from Detroit on, so round 6, I think it was, to round 17, it seemed like Sexton and Webb were just linked together. One of them would win, the other would win next week, or they'd split races. Of course, you had a couple guys get in there in between. Kenny won Daytona, AP won the Mutter and Foxborough, but it seemed like they were really trading wins back and forth. You have the Arlington race, where Chase is trying to go for the moto win on Webb and ends up slipping back. You have, of course, Pittsburgh, like you talked about, your Supercross race of the year, where Webb holds off the pressure the entire time. You have finger guns, you have Rockin' the Baby, but it seemed like it was mostly a respectful, of course, you have a few barbs here and there, but it seemed like a pretty respectful rivalry for the most part. And it really dominated storylines throughout the season, because you were waiting to see who's going to get the upper hand. Is it going to be Cooper's week? Is it going to be Chase's week? And those two put on a show every single round of Supercross after their battle really got established. And I think it's the clear rivalry of the year. We had some of these other deals with Hayden D, and I really don't think he had a Shimoda rivalry until Budds Creek maybe. And of course, Joe dropped the MF or comment in the press conference, which really seemed like an escalation of what seemed to be a pretty friendly banner between them before that. And of course, the Beaumare thing only lasted a couple weeks, and after it got started, it was really one-sided toward Deegan's favor. So I'm going to go with the one that carried out and featured the most weight throughout the season, of course, going for a 450 Supercross title. Cooper Webb versus Chase Sexton, my rivalry of the year.
Yeah, I fully agree with you on that one. Cooper Webb, Chase Sexton was my rivalry of the year as well. I think the weight it carried, like you said, was so massive. And knowing that Chase and Webb, towards the end of the year, the last 7 or 8 rounds, it was those two are the only guys that were really winning. So it made it interesting, and it kind of was like, those two guys are going to be on the podium. Who's getting the last spot? And that's really what it was. So, yeah, shout out to those two guys for battling it out in Supercross, making it interesting, and giving us one hell of a show, because it definitely made this season fun, and without having the likes of Jim Lawrence and Eli Tomac in the battle the whole time. So I give those two guys the shot as well. And then I have Joe and Deegan on here as well. I just think that with the whole way it ended and the whole like just the full blown takeouts of each other was good. I mean, we could even throw Anderson to Machi in there. That should be pretty good too. But yeah, that's definitely my rivalry of the year was Chase versus Cooper Webb. But I enjoyed it, and then even like you could say Feb and Kuna, that was a pretty good link of battles there. Kind of similar situation to ours in America for their Supercross or our Supercross, their motocross with two guys who you probably wouldn't have picked to be battling for the title together. I mean, I guess you could never count Cooper Webb, but yeah, I mean, if you had to guess for the season 30, probably putting together like Geisher and Coonan and stuff like that. Coonan and Feb had a good couple battles there too. So I give it to those two guys, Chase and Cooper Webb.
Next up, an award. You shouldn't have two winners realistically, probably, but this is our show. This is what we're going to rock with. And the next one I have Feel Good Inc., the Feel Good Moment of the Year. And I just couldn't pick between Jeremy Martin winning his last race at Millville in front of the home crowd, which was a special moment, and then Malcolm Stewart at Tampa. What a moment that was. James calling the race in the booth. Big James out on the floor watching his son win his first 450 main event. Two absolute incredible moments, potentially all-time moments in the same season, a few months apart. I was pretty impacted by the Stewart one, of course. If you've followed along the show and listened to the introduction episode, James Stewart was a big reason I got into the sport. And of course, being a James Stewart fan, you never really got to see that like last win for closure. Of course, he did have that final win at High Point, but nobody ever expected 2014 to be Stewart's last win. And you wait and you wait and you never get that closure. And then seeing Malcolm Stewart win, seeing the Stewart family back on top was an incredibly special moment. And it was awesome to see the whole crowd just rally behind Malcolm, of course, his home race as well. It was an incredible moment, an emotional moment, a lot of fun to watch, and so many people were really happy that Mookie finally got that 450SX win. And of course, Jeremy Martin. I think everybody on that property, whether they showed up that day as Deegan fans or Shimoda fans or Kitchen fans, I think everybody on that property was rooting for Jeremy Martin. I mean, I can't recall another time in history where I've seen flaggers actively cheering on a rider, and I know they're probably not supposed to do that either, but it seemed like everybody at Spring Creek Raceway that day was pulling for the number 6, and every time he went by, the crowd just roared. To see him, I think the podium, that first moto, that would have been enough to be an incredible final ride. Like, all right, one final podium from J-Mart, that's a really cool result. But for him to go out there and win that second moto, it was like a fairy tale at the end of the day. What a moment. And I can't think of two better feel-good moments of the year. Seeing Malcolm get that first win finally, and then seeing Jeremy Martin go out on top. Two incredible moments that had so many people smiling from ear to ear.
Yeah, I think my feel good moment of the year was probably Malcolm. That was pretty cool to hear. I mean, like I didn't get to watch the race, but like you could hear it from outside the stadium, everybody going crazy, and you're hearing all the stuff. And then like we're walking around the pits after the race, and they're like, "Dude, Malcolm won! Malcolm won!" I'm like, "No way, dude! Like, no way, Mookie actually just won." And then you see the swarm of people heading to his pit, so that was super cool. And then I got to get to rewatch that race. That was unreal. And then obviously the J Mart moment, that was pretty cool. But I think I got to give it to Stu here too, just because it's been a record that was probably going to be broken by the Lawrences, having Hunter and Jet be the first pair of brothers to win Supercrosses, and he's able to take that away from him and make it him and James. That's just cool to me, just because like they really were, the first brother duo. Before you look at the brother duos, you don't really look at James and Malcolm because they're so far apart. Everybody kind of looks towards the Lawrences or whomever, but yeah, just to kind of be able to take that record and be like, "Yeah, look, we were the first ones to do it." That's pretty cool. So, and just for him to do it in Tampa, where I know he's 45 minutes away from there as we grew up. So it's cool, man. It's definitely my feel good moment of the year, and I think it would be most people's.
Underdog moment of the year. I'm pretty sure I know your answer, and it would probably be one of my picks as well, but I'm going to go for something different just for the sake of being different and having a little bit of options here. I'm going to go, I mentioned it before, Isaac Gifting, MXGP of Sweden, just flying through the pack, leading laps on home soil. That was an incredible race to watch. And even though I watched the moto after I knew the results, I was still heartbroken when you see the guy come to a stop. It's like, no, man, I want to see him win it. It was so cool to see all of the people in Sweden behind him. Even people in the paddock were wearing Isaac Gifting shirts and Viking helmets to support him. It really shows his character and how much of a talented racer he was. And man, if he would have been able to win that second moto, that would have been one of the most insane sights in the world of motocross in recent memory. It was a fantastic effort, even though it doesn't show on paper. But Isaac Gifting, Moto 2, MXGP of Sweden, making Fevra and Hurlings look silly. What a race. What a moment. Jack, I'm pretty sure your moment's probably going to have to do something with mud and a podium.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, I got to go Linville Foxborough. I mean, guy goes down the first corner on a privateer bike, goes out and gets a podium. That's pretty damn sick. I think the whole race, really, though, is like underdog moment, you could say, with Hymas winning his first race, Cullen getting his first podium, and then us, obviously, being a privateer team with, not a whole lot of funding and just being able to, get it done. I mean, it's not just the team that does it. Linville does a lot of it himself too. It's just like all that goes into it, and being able to be on the box was an unreal moment. Cause like, you just like, I mean, this is the crazy thing that like, you don't even think about is like, I don't have the ability to go on track at once the races have started. And I'm like, what if what happens if we get a podium? Like, what's going to happen? I'm like, why am I even thinking like that? Sure enough, that year we got a podium, and they're like, yeah, go ahead. So just stuff like that. That's like, I mean, like I'm like thinking in my head, like, oh, what if this happens? Like, that'd be so cool. What if that'd be super cool to feel like that? But it's like, no, that really happened, which I thought was super cool. So the whole moment itself is just, I was speechless the whole time, and Gage stood on the podium best. I'm speechless right now. So I think for me, that's definitely my underdog moment of the year. I think it could even be other people's. I mean, you can even look at like Shane McElrath and be like, that's a cool one too. So, but just the fact that he went down the first corner and rode the rest of the race without going down and passing, I don't know, what was it, 19 guys or something like that, I think it is. That's pretty crazy. So I wonder if that's like the most positions gained ever in a main event. I don't know if it is, but it feels like it should be. I don't know. But yeah, no, it was cool. It was really cool.
It was an incredible moment. I just wanted to pick something a little different because I knew that would be your pick. But like you said, Shane McElrath also first podium that night. Colin Park first podium. Ricky Randonella made a main event. Logan Leitzel made the 450 main event and was in the top 10. So many underdogs had a great night in the mud. And of course, the mud can be the great equalizer at times. What a night for all of the underdogs and privateers of the sport. Drama Queen of the Year. Who is your winner and why is it Jorge Prado?
I mean, yeah, Torre Prado. I mean, him or Deegan, I guess, right? I mean, like everybody's I think Prado's definitely the choice, but I've never seen a scenario handled quite like the way his was. You get given a 3-year contract. Understandably, it doesn't work out very well in Supercross. You've never really ridden it. It's a brand new bike. But like just the crap that he was complaining about to me, I was like, what the hell, dude? Like, you're complaining about a 450 not having enough power? Are you serious? Like, I've never heard that before in my life. I think a lot of it, like with him, is it's like you want to point the finger somewhere else. And dude, like, it's understandable. Like, you're not being as successful as you were over in Europe. Like, I don't think anybody would be, you know what I mean? Like, on a brand new bike, new team, all this stuff going on. But like, the guy didn't even give it 3 weeks. He gave it, 2 days, it felt like, before he was slandering names and basically trying to not qualify for races, which is absolutely crazy to me. But nonetheless, it's going to be Jorge Prado with Drama Queen of the Year. I mean, who else to pick there? You could pick Deegan because he was always in some shit, but I mean, Jorge Prado's scenario was so bad. I don't know. I've never seen it. I don't know. When you have a 3-year deal with somebody, it's like, okay, you get to like the end of your deal and you're going to re-sign with somebody else and you have a ride already lined up. And you kind of did what Chase did and you kind of start, pointing some fingers and saying, oh, this is kind of bad, whatever. didn't end it in the greatest way, but he didn't burn the bridge, in my opinion. Like, he could go back potentially, but he didn't slander the KTM brand to smithereens like Prado does Cowie, which is crazy because that Cowie, like, knowing the insides of that Cowie operation, it's like he has all of the tools to succeed. Like, they're willing to do basically anything it takes to win. And they took a furious chance on Prado. And for him to just kind of spit in their face and say "F you" is crazy. So yeah, I'm giving my drama queen of the year to Prado. I honestly, I hope he sucks on KTM. I don't really like the guy, to be honest. I think how he handled his whole situation was crazy. I mean, I don't know. I just hope like it's like it takes. It's like it's not going to be a right away opportunity for anybody that's transferring over right away. I mean, you look at Tom, his first year in Supercross, he struggled a lot, and his first year outdoors wasn't that good, and he's on the same bike. So it's like, what are you going to do? It just takes time. And I think he just didn't have the patience for it. I think that's could kill his career.
We've talked about it so much throughout the show about Prado and his various parts of drama, but I simply put in my notes, I simply put drama queen George. I don't think I need to say anything else after your diatribe right there. As I mentioned, we've covered it so many times throughout the show, from High Point to when he was getting dropped by Brad West in the mud to Budds Creek when he's going out there qualifying 43rd. Insane. Moving on now, only a couple awards left to go. A little bit of a longer episode today, but there's a lot of cool moments from 2025 and some bad moments that we just talked about to cover. The Kitted and Fitted Award for the best looking gear set graphic kit of the year. Man, it's so hard to pick this because there are so many different looks throughout the year. So I'll give an honorable mention to Hayden Deegan's Metal Militia gear at Las Vegas, which I thought was incredibly sick. But the two that really stood out to me personally, the first one would be the Club MX kits at the St. Jude's race in Indianapolis. Of course, now Muck-Off has parted ways as title sponsor with them, but they, of course, had the pink and black branding, and I thought the pink and black FXR gear with the enhanced, of course, the blue front fender for the Yamaha, but the more pink and black graphic kit, I thought was a very cool look. I think so many teams in these special races, whether it's St. Jude's week or the military appreciation rounds or even the throwback rounds that we have every once in a while, I think every time some of these teams, especially the privateer ones who have a little bit more freedom to go out there and to whip up some incredible graphic kits, I think they hit it out of the park. I love these special themed rounds. Club MX with the pink and black FXR gear with the pink and black graphics, I think looked amazing. And another one I love personally, of course, NASCAR was my first love, and seeing Justin Starling with the Dale Jr. Budweiser kit at Daytona with the Alias gear to match was an incredible look. Brought back a lot of memories, of course, seeing that Budweiser number 8 on the track as a little kid. So I'm going to have to give Justin Starling and the Moto Whips crew some credit for that one, because that was an amazing look. Like I said, so many to pick from. When you run 31 rounds, it's hard to really remember every single kit, but some of these special themed ones really stick out. And those were two, in my opinion, that I absolutely loved throughout the year. How about you, Jack? What do you got for some of the best gear and graphics of the year?
So I'm gonna go. I kind of put in like 3 tiers. So I did overall gear, like gear that you see all the time, which is kind of funny because I picked Jorge Prado. I think his setup throughout the year was sick with all the black and pink and the green and all that shit. I think it looks so good. Like overall kit throughout the year, I think whoever looked the best this weekend, he would look pretty cool pretty much every weekend. I give it to Jorge Prado. My favorite kit of the year was probably RJ Hampshire's Philly kit, the Philadelphia Phillies gear. I thought
that was a good one.
Sick. I thought that stuff was super cool. That, or you could even go the good, the bad, the ugly with when they did it with Fly, did it with Cooper Webb. I think Hymas was one of them, and then Dean Wilson. That was cool. And then my bike of the year, this might be, I don't know if it's like, I think it was the military appreciation round from, I believe it was Triumph. I like the Air Force style kits. We ran one in 2024, We ran one. We ran one with Gage, and it was super cool. Like the chromed out like star with the blue stripes and the red circle star. That was super cool. And I think Triumph did something very similar with like the chrome look. I thought those bikes were sick. The graphic kits on those were pretty cool. I also like would give a shout out to our Vegas kit. I thought that was pretty sweet. It kind of inspired us to do like the look we're doing this year with the more black for our team at least. I think a lot of the Vegas kits are cool as well. So I give the bike to the Triumph team. I think that kit was pretty sweet, just with how everything looked. With it's super sleek and clean, and I love the chrome look on everything. I think it looks cool. So yeah, I'm gonna go Jorge Prado with like an overall best look. I love the Fox setup. I think Fox looks so good on galleys. It kind of reminded me of like Cincerillo. And then like custom gear kit, I give it to Hampshire. I think his was pretty sweet. And then for bikes, I go Triumph with the graphic kit for the Arlington round.
So many good gear sets and bike graphics to pick from. Las Vegas, as you mentioned, a lot of really good ones. Our last award on the list, Woat of the Year, and I'm going to go quick with this one. Joe Shimoda, Las Vegas press conference, Adam Intignap, 7 Deuce Deuce, asking him, what was Deegan saying to you on the line? Joe, of course, was like, yeah, he was saying stuff about you're not ready for what's happened, and I just looked at him and said, I don't speak English. I feel like that was the mic drop of the year. Joe, of course, kind of a dry humor guy. He just says it with a straight face, and of course, everybody loves it. But man, that was such a mic drop after winning the championship, after surviving all the pressure, and to drop the I don't speak English, and you could hear everybody in the press conference just starts clapping and laughing. Honorable mention to Cooper Webb's whole, I believe it was at Pittsburgh, when he was talking about the new celebration. He was like, I got finger banged one too many times, so I had to switch it up and start rocking the baby. I don't remember the exact quote for sure, but it was something along those lines. Another very funny quote, but I got to give quote of the year to Joe Shimoda after Vegas.
My quote of the year, I don't know if it's like hard to say because like nobody actually said it, but it got written on a pit board, which I thought was hilarious. So after the Pittsburgh round was Denver, and Cooper Webb does the whole rock the baby thing. And Jade Dungy, Chase's mechanic on the pit board, writes, "Who's your daddy?" ? As some Coop was driving by or something like that, which I thought was pretty funny. That would probably be my quote of the year. You could even put like Deegan's like, if you don't like it, you could suck it on there. That was pretty crazy. Just because like that's like a pretty iconic line on like TikTok and stuff from like what I've seen. So I mean, APs do it for Dale's always pretty good, so it's always fun to watch. But yeah, no, I think that one probably would be my favorite, just because it was playing into the games, and then Chase had a cool little celebration. Which, gonna quote this: when we told him to do it, we were like, "Dude, if you get the chance, John Morant does this celebration when he shoots a 3, chucks the grenade, covers the ears," and we're like, dude, if you win in Denver, you got to do it. And he did. That was pretty funny to see that on the couch when they put it on TV. I was like, holy shit, he did it. That was sick. So, but yeah, some banter there with my buddy Chase. So fun to see that come to fruition. I don't know if anybody knows that, but yeah, no, that was probably my quote of the year was the "Who's your daddy" from Jay Dungy. That was pretty funny.
That was a funny moment. And another pit board I will give a shout out to, not in my quote of the year, but I thought it was hilarious. I believe it was Southwick when they had the TV coverage, and Levi Kitchen had a couple bad laps in a row, and Levi's mechanic just writes question marks on the pit board during the middle of the race. I don't think I've ever seen mechanics just write question marks on the board before. But those are the first edition of the Stire Sound Awards. We hope you enjoyed. We agreed on some things. Definitely a lot of fun moments to look back on. It was a great year of racing. And now 2026 is just around the corner, and the next time you hear from us, it will be 2026. We will be doing previews for each class of Supercross. Of course, the 251 might be a little harder since, as of right now, we're not really sure who's on East Coast. We know Deegan will be West. Club MX has already decided their coasts. But in terms of factory guys, we're not really sure what's going to be happening yet. But we will have both class previews the first week of 2026. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for listening throughout this year. We appreciate all of your support. For everybody listening, wherever you are, we hope you have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, a Happy New Year. Enjoy time with family, loved ones, friends. Stay safe out there. We hope you enjoy the last few days of 2025 before we head into 2026. It's been a fun year. Thank you all for tuning into the show. I enjoy doing this every week or every other week as of now. Recording this has been a lot of fun. Any final thoughts before we conclude the 2025 portion of the Stire Sound, Jack? Thank you once again for joining us and helping make this show very fun to listen to. Definitely fun to record and to go back and forth with some banner, but I appreciate you doing this show with me and taking a chance on this thing. Hopefully, we got the foundation built now. Hopefully, we can start growing and making more progress for 2026.
Yeah, that's all I can say is that I feel like we had a little idea come together at High Point, and I think it's come to fruition so far. I think it's been pretty consistent. I've enjoyed doing it, and I have a lot of fun. And hopefully, we can get some support going into 2026, maybe, and upgrade the viewing experience for you guys, hopefully, and make it more and more interesting each time you guys watch. So I'm glad you guys are listening, and we'll see you guys in 2026.
Thank you all for the support throughout 2025. And as Jack said, we will see you in 2026. For Jack Noel, I am Trey Stire, and the Stire Sound is fading out. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, folks.